Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
So just check real quick on Teams and see if he's hanging out there.
Bear with us 1 second. We're making sure that Ross is going to be available.
We can also just
We can always if we need to
vote to bump him later, yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he shows up in the next 90 seconds or so.
Yeah,
If it'll
no.
take to do the minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, I will call to order this meeting of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission. The first item on our agenda is approval of minutes. These are the minutes from our September 3rd, 2025 meeting, and those were included in your packet. Is there a motion on the minutes? I move approval.
I move. Oh, I second.
Okay, Brandon made the motion, Kelly made the second. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Any additions, clarifications? Seeing none. All those in favor of adopting the minutes, please signify by saying aye. 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 Those opposed, nay. Those minutes are approved. Item number 3 is public appearances for non-agenda items. We have a member who's registered under item number 3. Turn it over, Steve.
Thank you. The bike and ped plan update is not on the agenda. I just wanted to comment on that. I feel, well, we have not seen the formatted version, but with a brief read over the text-only draft that was presented to you, I guess, in August. There are a lot of things that could be improved. I'll just give one example is the paragraph that talks about infrastructure, and they talk about protected and buffered bike lanes and advisory lanes. And that's the heading, but then there's nothing in it about advisory lanes. No photograph, no explanation of what they are. So I just think it could use, Mark Hamilton has pointed out that there's nothing in there about needing a bike and ped coordinator. That is the #1 thing that the bike league thinks that we need. And there doesn't seem to be any accountability mechanism for getting things done. It's just arm-waving suggestions. So I think that it's not ready to be approved, and I would like to see it delayed for more work. There is, we are offering to put in some volunteer time on the draft and try to make some suggestions for your consideration, and we hope to do that in the coming days.
Are there any questions for Steve? I guess one, is it possible to get the PDF out of
InDesign so that everyone can see the current formatted version?
Possibly. I know it's kind of in an interstitial state right now. We were hoping to have it ready for this morning, and then things got delayed, obviously, because of the fact that we can't put the referral sheet together yet. We're waiting on one committee to be ready for that. I know that the PDF Steve's referencing was shared in August, and we opened up, we had a couple week period for people to provide edits, comments, revisions. We had very few responses there. I know we've been communicating about this in email over the last couple days. There certainly are more, the plan was when the final draft here is referred out by council and goes to committees that there'd be another opportunity for comments and feedback. There wasn't another round of significant revisions built into the planning timeline, into the budget. And so we're kind of, knowing that this was never intended to be a major rework of the plan, but more of kind of a facelift, kind of a cleaning up for, 8 years down the road. Again, we can certainly keep talking about additional things there, but I know we did have that window for revisions that passed, and so we're kind of trying to work with the resources we've got right now.
Again, because there was the comment period from the July, August version of it, I guess it'd be helpful to see what got incorporated from those suggestions.
Yeah. One thing about the life cycle of these kinds of documents is you kind of have to get the text right before you start formatting it, because you need pictures to be next to the appropriate paragraphs, and you don't want to leave titles at the bottom of pages and the body on the next page. So I recognize that that staff might be reluctant to put something out because until text is finalized, it looks like heck. But if you put in a paragraph, then all of a sudden everything has to move. And so that's why I would just say, export it into PDF no matter what it looks like. And we all understand that things have to be adjusted, but if we could see what's in it, that would be real helpful. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and we'll have to talk internally. I have not checked back in with Brad and Ross on. I haven't checked back in with Brad and Ross on these things. Need to talk with them and with Deanna and Chad about it as well. I know that was why MSA tried to get all text revisions by the middle of August so that we could move into photos and formatting, and that's the period that we're at right now, is trying to do photos and formatting. So we just need to figure out what kind of delay that might mean for getting it approved.
And I just want to emphasize that we're offering the additional editing resources. Thank you.
Okay, I don't have anyone else registered.
I would just like to say I agree with Steve that it would be very helpful if we could see what they did with any comments or suggestions we had before they think they're finalized. It would be great if we could see whether those changes that we suggested actually made it in.
Agreed. Thank you. I had no one else registered under public appearances.
Good to see you, Sean.
Does not look like Ross has joined us.
Morning, Joe.
No, I don't see him.
So if the committee is okay with it, so just ask for unanimous consent to pull item 4C up in the agenda. See no objection. We'll move on to item 4C, which is the Wisconsin Bike Fed presentation with Sean. It is all yours.
Hi. All right, good morning, folks. I'm really excited to, be connected or reconnected to this group. I know some members, here and there, but also excited to lay the context for what's happening with the Bike Fed here in Dane County and start talking about, potential points of intersection with this commission and other groups in Fitchburg. I have a few slides that I might, if it's okay for me to go to. I realize I didn't send this, beforehand, but if it would be okay for me to throw up some visuals to guide my talk for a few minutes before I kind of, pull back and we have a discussion, would that be okay?
I think that should be fine. He should be able to share, I
Should
believe.
be able to, yeah.
Yeah, thumbs up.
You should-
We're good.
Yep.
Yep.
FACTv says you should be able to share, so.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Let's see what happens. Cool. Well, I'll introduce myself first. I'm Sean Koval, he, him. I just started working for the Wisconsin Bike Fed as their program manager in August. But I've been here, I'm from Dane County, have been back here in Dane County, living on the west side of Madison for 7 years now, and have my most recent experience has been more in the community health space. I've worked with the Healthy Kids Collaborative and UW Health Population Health Department, and had the pleasure of working on, collaborating on several Fitchburg projects. From there was an assessment of the Nine Springs, golf course some years ago that the Healthy Kids Collaborative supported. A health impact assessment and then there was, of course, the advocacy for the Leopold pump track, as well as we helped advocate for the neighborhood. I was part of helping advocate for the neighborhood hub in my past role. So that's all to say that I'm interested and informed, I guess, about things like the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative and some of the other priorities that you all have in terms of making, people in Fitchburg healthier and more connected. And I think that, that's, a large part of what the Wisconsin Bike Fed is hoping to do with Fitchburg and other municipalities, is to have these connection points around bicycle and pedestrian related topics. I'll share a little bit here of sort of what our programmatic, approach is and, scope is here, and then I'll, kind of pause for questions at the end. So just to be clear, around the Wisconsin Bike Fed, I see some Bike Fed gear there with the raw jersey, and I know that some of you all, probably most of you, are familiar with the Bike Fed. But just to be clear, we're a statewide education and advocacy organization, based in Milwaukee now. I'm one of 3 staff that are here in our Madison office. And we hold the Safe Routes to School grant. We are the holders of that program here across the county. And so, we are connected to the schools and the school districts that the Fitchburg students and families attend. It was really a really positive meeting a couple of weeks ago with Mark Hamilton and Steve to talk about sort of the connection points between Bike Fitchburg and the Bike Fed as it relates to the schools that serve your families. And we had some good, productive conversations about what that could look like. And I'm happy to elaborate a little bit more about that in a second. But just as an overview, our Safe Routes to Schools grant is primarily youth education based. So I'm not going to go through all of these and do PowerPoint karaoke with you all, but these are the types of things that we do with our school partners. Often it's in physical education classes, but we also work with we're willing to work with any elementary, middle school, or high school teacher if they've got a good idea around, promoting safe walking and biking to school, and if we have the capacity. So, the Walking Wisdom is more of a 2nd or 3rd grade program to teach students safe walking in their communities. The PE classes and more of the biking stuff in general is, I'd say, 4th, 5th grade would be the youngest, but we do a lot in middle school and high school as well. And there's a variety of health advocacy, transportation advocacy units that we've done over the years. Those are really fun. I'm a former teacher, in addition to having a background in the health system. And so I've really enjoyed my position so far, just a little bit more than a month in, because it really gets to combine some of my interests and skills around education and health with advocacy and active transportation. We also do work in the out-of-school time space. For example, tonight we'll be there at Leopold Park for the Fall Fun Series. We've been there at each of the last 3. That's been really fun to work with the partners there, City of Madison kind of being the ringleader. But that's more of like an event-based out of school time program partnership. We do go into school-based after school programs as well as community-based after school programs to do bike clubs, bike classes, things in the summertime, etc. This is what you see here is a picture of us taking a MSCR group on a ride that's near Vilas Park in Madison. And then kind of broadening it out beyond just the school building itself. We really want to have the whole school, whole community, whole child framework in our work. And so we do a variety of, I guess technical assistance or, partnership activities around things like school travel safety plans, brainstorming with, we're on the Madison Metropolitan School District school travel safety team, and they're ones who essentially take suggestions, complaints from school community members, school staff at individual schools, and then we essentially make a plan for addressing some of those concerns and communicating with the partners to follow up to maybe learn more at times. So currently, the city of Madison is contracting with tool design and equity by design to study school travel safety across, across the district, but they're taking individual batches of schools each year. So this year they're looking at 11 different schools and really doing focused study and planning around those schools. Again, we do events, family nights, learn to rides, bike rodeos, etc. We've helped launch and support walking school buses, which is organizing, families in partnership with schools to coordinate safe walking routes to schools for those that are within the walking zone. And then also just like a variety of health and wellness culture building activities. I think the real key is that we need the partnership of the school, to do this work. And so we, as much as we can, have the approach of meeting the school community where they're at and kind of building out a plan, programming from there. And I would say that I mentioned capacity being something that we're conscious of, which we need to be conscious of because there are 16 school districts in Dane County. There's only 3 of our staff. So how do we prioritize our time and energy and resources, considering that they're often requested? Well, the way that we do that is through this equity tier-based criteria that we developed actually in 2018 and 2019. I returned to Madison in 2019, and at that time I was supporting the Safe Routes to School program as a coordinator within UW Health before they passed the program to the Bike Fed. And at that time, we developed this equity tier-based criteria to say that we're going to give the most intensive staff resource and supports to the schools that need it the most. And we essentially, the proxies for need were free and reduced lunch rates. And then at that time, there was a Public Health Madison-Dane County report that looked at health records across the county by zip code. And we were able to pinpoint the census tracts in areas where there were the highest rates of childhood obesity. And based on those data points, we organized schools at that time into these tiers. And though it's a little bit outdated and I haven't been involved in many years, we're going to use that approach, continue to use that approach moving forward, although we're planning to update it and augment that this winter when our busy programming season kind of comes to an end and we have more coordination time to work with our partners to develop that. But that's something that Mark and Steve and I talked a lot about and thinking about how we, the Bike Fed could work with Bike Fitchburg to provide just-in-time resources and supports for the schools that serve your students. And really, frankly, the schools the elementary schools that would fit that tier 1 of the most supports are Leopold Elementary and Laurie Mann Carey, which was formerly Southside Elementary. Both of those are MMSD community schools, and that status is a huge help in terms of partnership for the type of work that we're doing because they have a community school resource coordinator position there that their role is really to help facilitate partnerships like with folks like Bike Fitchburg and the Bike Fed to do those extra, supports that teachers wouldn't be able to coordinate on their own, or the administration might have a hard time juggling with the many other responsibilities that they have. And so, yeah, it was Mark and Steve and I went over I have a list here of all of the Fitchburg, schools, the schools that serve Fitchburg students, and what some of the activities that they have going on already. And we essentially talked about an initial plan to sort of map out Bike Fitchburg, hoping to map out a liaison from their core for each one of these schools, and the Bike Fed really working closely with Bike Fitchburg on those tier 1 schools, such as Lorryman, Cary, and Leopold. And yeah, I'm happy to report that this in October, it's October 1st, we're kicking off Pedestrian Safety Month. It's also Walk to School Day comes in early October. That's coming up Wednesday, October 8th. And we've launched what's called the Walker Wheel Challenge, which is this is a encouragement campaign of schools that historically had happened in Dane County but had trailed off the last few years. We wanted to revive that in order to celebrate and support schools that are already doing great work, promoting walking and biking to schools, and also maybe give a bit of an incentive and a healthy nudge to schools that might be thinking of doing something but haven't had the time and energy to do it yet. And so it's essentially we're offering prize drawings to schools who sign up, and then technical assistance and support if they so choose. And we've got 18 schools across Dane County already registered for that, and Lorryman, Cary, and Leopold have signed up and have shared a little bit with us of their plans for the coming month. And so they're participating in that larger effort. We're sharing resources with them and talking with them, and I just think that the equity tier-based framework is really aligned, it seems to me, with the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative and how you guys are focusing resources and investment and strategy in particular neighborhoods that need it most. So that's all my talking points. I don't want to ramble too much. I'll open the floor for questions or reactions.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, Sean, I just want to express my gratitude. I know you've been collaborating with Fitchburg for a really long time in any role you've been in, and I appreciate that. Also, just shouting out the Bike Fed because, we had done several bike-related, repair workshops in District 1, and Caitlin was always there at every one and, helping with bike repairs, and so it's much appreciated. I had a couple of questions. The first around the equity tier-based framework. I hope I said it correctly. So
we got to come up with a catchier name, but that's what it is.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about the fact that Fitchburg's in 3 school districts, and I know that in the Verona School District, the attendance boundaries are drawn with the idea that sort of we have a balance of socioeconomic and race and ethnicity across schools. So I think one of the things that does for a model like this is it makes it difficult to, I guess, sort of hit that because, Stoner Prairie and Glacier Edge and, the other schools that feed into Fitchburg are gonna just kind of naturally be the same demographically. So I'm wondering if there's I guess any way to look at that when you're thinking of, because I know that one, we're building a new elementary school, or the Verona School District's building a new elementary school in the next few years in the King James neighborhood. And then you've got Stoner Prairie, obviously, and Savannah Oaks and Fitchburg as well. But I'm not sure that any of those schools will hit that maybe demographic need.
Joe, you're speaking to a really important point and something that we've talked about on our team in the last few weeks, and that's why we're going to update the framework this winter to better account for those scenarios. I'll give you the scenario that came up on our team. So it's a Madison example, but there's a middle school on the east side, O'Keefe Middle School. If you know O'Keefe Middle School, it's near Willie Street. You might think the houses around there very affluent. I personally, my family wouldn't be able to afford, a house, immediately near O'Keefe. From the outside and looking at the numbers, it wouldn't be in that tier one, and there are students from the Truax Apartments, which is right by the airport, that are public housing that go to O'Keefe. Low income, low historically marginalized and under invested neighborhood. There's a O'Keefe Bike Commuter Club that started on Wednesdays. It's happening right now, and the Bike Commuter Club goes. It's specifically for students that are at the Truax Apartments, and it leaves from the East Madison Community Center, and it goes to O'Keefe. And that is meeting, we think, a really big need for students that historically from that neighborhood, whether it's going to Hawthorne Elementary or their middle school, have had lower attendance rates than their peers. And so what we've said is, this technically O'Keefe is not in our tier one, right now. And we're going to dedicate staff resources to help with that Bike Commuter Club, knowing that the particular target population within O'Keefe that we would be supporting is a high needs population. And so I think what you're speaking to, Joe, is the shortcoming in using those two very general proxies in determining our resources. And I guess I would say that, A, it hasn't been a hard and fast sort of rule, in the last couple of months since I've returned, and that we're looking to update the criteria, I guess, to think about what that would look like. And another criteria, besides like looking at, inequities within a school community, in some way, would be like if there's a special project, like special infrastructure projects happening in a certain place. So if a road is being redesigned, or there's if a crossing guard has been removed or something like that, well, we want to be able to come in with the just-in-time resources to help with education or events to promote safe walking and biking when there's sort of a unique window of opportunity in a particular neighborhood or school. So I'm kind of going on and on, but I appreciate you identifying that those schools in particular, Verona and Stoner Prairie, et cetera, that there still are high needs, that there's high needs, neighborhoods or, historically under-resourced neighborhoods that those students are coming from, that we should look at supporting. I'm not at all opposed to developing a more fine-tuned plan. I guess I would look to you all and the partners in Bike Fitchburg to help me understand more of those opportunities, because I have been involved, here and there in Fitchburg, but I'm not a Fitchburg resident, and I'm not as attuned to some of those finer, I guess, dynamics. And so I'm looking forward to hearing how else we can help with the commission's work. I've heard a little bit that you guys have some established priorities and that you're reporting back to the other alders, but beyond kind of developing a more specific approach for support at some of those schools, would love to hear how else we might collaborate based on what you guys have been working on.
Sean, I have something else, but I'll wait for other people to talk.
Steve, you'd also registered on this topic.
Yes. Just adding to what Sean said, I registered for this topic because I'm a Bike Fed board member and I might have something to add, but I've got my Bike Fitchburg hat on right now. As you all know, we are focused on our political subdivision of the city of Fitchburg, and I always used to emphasize to residents when I was an elected official that schools are a separate layer of government, and they do not necessarily fit very, very nicely into our city focus. But Bike Fitchburg is lucky that we do not have I think you said 14 or 16 school districts and dozens of elementary schools to deal with. And so our aspiration is to get one contact with each of our Fitchburg serving schools, the 4 in our city, the 2 Verona, Forest Edge, and Eagle, and the 2 on our borders, three, Cary and Badger Rock in the building on Rimrock Road, and Leopold. Now, Bike Fed has an established relationship with Leopold, so we are looking to have them continue that role, and we will be using the kinds of things that they do as our model and communicating with them to learn from them, and also, as Sean says, to keep him informed of what we see as Fitchburg's needs. We will continue to use the healthy neighborhoods areas as our equity focus, trying to make sure that we send the most resources to those areas, and in this case, to those students in those areas. And but we will try to cover all the schools. We're fortunate that we have 2 contacts within Eagle, and Eagle would not be a school that we would pick based on equity focus, but the opportunity is there, and affluent kids need to be healthy too. And Eagle does have a very big pickup drop-off crisis because it draws from such a broad area. So there is opportunities to improve safety at Eagle. One of our board members is married to the PTO president for Eagle. So, so we'll have an in there, and we'll be working on that. So just wanted to add that we're going to try to go with complete coverage and recruit additional volunteers if we need to try to cover all Fitchburg schools.
To respond to your points, for Verona, I would also consider, since their charters draw from the entire district, if you could have a contact for like VAS, NCS, and CORE, that would be helpful. And they tend to share resources. So, for example, like they all use the same gym teacher.
Yes.
Coincidentally, they started bike education in 2nd grade at those schools, but that would be one comment. And then just to your side about the community crisis at Eagle School, I tried biking through there yesterday at drop-off time, and I will concur there is a crisis.
In our last bicycle-friendly community application in 2023, Mark Hamilton did that section, and he worked very hard with each of the schools to kind of document what they were all doing. But for the next round, which is due in 2027 and will start next year, we hope to be actually adding, helping to raise the bar for what each of our schools does, especially the ones of greatest need. Thank you.
Joe, you had another?
Yeah, so Sean, if I don't know if you've seen it, but we should have our last committee of the whole meeting on YouTube on our FACTv channel, and as a part of the presentation, we talked about the road to gold, and that's not a goal in and of itself to me. I mean, I feel like it's more about what you're doing to get to gold, but one of the things mentioned was, you know, the equity focus in terms of community education for biking. So just letting you know that that's like a tangible goal that our commission has, and it's also, you know, something that we're going to have in the upcoming bike and ped plan. So whenever kind of collaboration is possible, you know, on some of that work, we're open to it. Also, the other thing is we're doing, we did as a commission walks, like almost like audits, but, you know, walk around certain parts of Fitchburg and point out, like, you know, where it could be more walkable. And I would say there's probably alignment there, and like the walking school buses and the things that you all have going on as well.
Yeah, there's definitely alignment. I remember fondly the walk audits that I did around, you know, Leopold with community members and community leaders back in 2019, early 2020, before the pandemic, when UW Health was still involved and I was involved in my last role. And it was really useful yeah, it led to real change in Madison for sure, because we ended up submitting certain the audit information into their Safe Streets program, and then they considered that input for improvements. And so I would love to help with that, and I would also love to learn more, I guess, about the system that you all use at Public Works or your engineering department in terms of assessing improvements in those areas. And so as long as the timing of those audits is aligned with the timing of when they consider new projects and et cetera. So let's absolutely talk about that. That would be great. Would love to get youth involved in those audits as much as possible. I think I'll mention that we help run bike clubs at 3 of the 4 MMSD high schools. We don't have one at West yet, where I know many Fitchburg students go, but we are employing a high school intern from West as part of our transportation ambassadors program, and he would really like to start a bike club at West, and that would be sort of my default student group. I would go to them and say, who here lives in Fitchburg and would like to help us with a bike or a walk or bike audit, and if it fits with their schedule, to get them to walk with us too. I think that'd be a really powerful experience, just to highlight that the youth involvement and youth leadership lens is something that's important to me and is a part of our programming too. So I can't help but not mention that when you bring up an idea like that, Joe.
How long will your intern be on?
It's a school, well, it's until June. So they start in June and they go through June. This is a pilot program this year. We're hopeful to get funding to do it next year. But they're essentially going to be working on a community impact project of their own choosing, starting last Thursday, since we rolled out the full details to them between then and June, and that's their culminating experience.
So maybe our commission in the spring can consider a walk around the west attendance area that's in Fitchburg, choose a neighborhood in Fitchburg, and maybe you can come back to one of our spring meetings and with the intern, and we could talk about planning it.
I'm game.
Yeah, would be a great idea. Are there any other questions or comments for Sean? I guess, Phil, if we could just make sure we get Sean's contact info out to the commission. If anyone has any follow-ups here, I think I'll probably have a couple as well. So, thank you for attending. I look forward to working with you.
Yeah, thank you all. I've got to head over to the Safe Kids Coalition meeting here soon, but so I'm going to sign off here. Best of luck, and if there's other topics, that are relevant to the work of the Bike Fed and just, safe routes to school, I'd love to rejoin, here and there as desired. So, yep, Phil, Joe, Steve, a lot of people have my contact info that are involved with this group, so it shouldn't be hard to get a hold of me.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
All right, we can pop back up to item 4A, which is update on public works projects impacting the bike ped network. Looks like Ross is still not here with us.
No.
Phil, if you had any.
I don't know much. I know that, I don't remember if this was discussed at the September meeting, but the Sain and McCoy work continues. Sain is now open from Clayton Drive, I believe, down to East Sherrill. So the final stage is working through the intersection of McCoy and Sain, and that is expected to be completed and reopened again by November 3rd is the last date that I heard. I believe I also forwarded an update to, or maybe mentioned in the past meeting, the work being done on McKee right now, that MG&E is replacing some gas lines for greater capacity. So that's why the multi-use path south side of McKee has been out of commission for a good chunk of the summer. I don't have a precise date from MG&E on that being completed. They just said that sometime this fall they're expecting that to be done. Last time I drove by, it looked like the the pipe work is done, and it looks like they've put back the kind of dirt and gravel bed. And so I'm hoping that pouring the path will happen in the next week or two, but I'm not sure on the exact timeline for that. I don't have any other public works updates that I'm up to speed on.
Just one comment on the McKee project, the
Yes.
project. I noticed that they restored the blacktop in the road in the areas that they dug up.
Yes.
But they haven't repainted the green crosswalk or like the bike bump
I
out.
did mention that to Ross, and I mentioned it to MGD directly, I think. The plan is for them to repaint that, and we'll make sure to keep on them.
Awesome, great.
Yep, thanks.
I have the same comment. I was just going through yesterday and it was like,
Yep.
this is like half gone now.
Yeah.
Would
Yep.
they restore it to the condition they found
Yeah,
it in, so.
I definitely called that out, and we want to make sure that we get that back.
Awesome.
It looked like it looks like they're close to potentially putting the path back in, because I think they've actually done some of the concrete work already leading up to it.
Great.
And then on Cyan, when I went through yesterday, it looks like all the curb and gutter is in. Like it's pretty close to being able to actually go through and pave the thing. Then I guess the one other comment, since we've had the discussion about the Cyan project, is the contractor appears to have absconded with one of our counters, so we're hoping to get that back. It was attached to a sign that was removed as part of that project.
Yeah, met up with Stephen, Mark, and Indy last week to kind of get them up to speed on the process for collecting data from those counters. And yeah, one of the 7 was just can't get data from it because it's not there. So they said that they'll reinstall that on November 3rd when everything is up and running again.
Did they actually find the counter?
They said that they have it.
Okay. It was attached to one of the signs that they pulled as part of the project.
Still haven't learned anything about the etiquette signs that went missing last summer or 2 summers ago. I guess last year, because it was 2 summers ago we got them put in. We still don't know where those went, but it might just have to be another purchase to get those back, because they just kind of disappeared into the ether.
And also, that had to have been a conscious decision to move them, because as I recall, the base plates on those were pretty heavy. Like, it wasn't just someone just pick them up and walk off with them.
But also heavy enough that I'm curious about the decision to say, I mean, they were clearly intentionally put there.
Yes.
And so a decision to say, these don't need to be here is also a curious one. My guess is that they were removed and then just kind of got lost in a warehouse somewhere, but I don't know.
I was wondering if the city of Madison or Dane County Parks might have picked them up, thinking that they were Madison.
I suspect that's what happened.
It's possible.
But they have more than they used to.
And we did ask, we at least asked Dane County about that, and they yeah, they said that as far as they were aware, that didn't happen. I don't remember if we reached out to Madison or not.
It's just generic signs, if they weren't branded as Fitchburg or Fitchburg Parks or anything.
I don't believe they had a Fitchburg logo.
Maybe in the future they will.
Yeah.
Possibly. Fitchburg sticker.
Exactly.
Yeah. Stick it on the back of the
All in a day. One of those hard to remove stickers.
I mean, they were on like a very heavy base plate. Like, it's not like teens came along and just said, oh, we're gonna go move this somewhere. Like, they were pretty heavy.
Wrestlers.
Yeah. Okay, any questions for Phil on public works projects? Item 4B is the RRFB discussion. We don't have Ross with us. I don't know that if we want to have this discussion or wait until Ross is actually here to kind of talk about the actual engineering mechanics of the RRFBs.
I propose we table it.
I guess, Kelly, are you okay with that? I think you were the one who initially requested this item. Wait until Ross is here to.
It makes more sense to do it when Ross is available to talk with us about it. So yeah.
Okay.
Looks like there's some comment in the chat from Mark.
And something about reaching out to Madison and Dane County about those signs.
Yeah, Fitchburg, Dane County, and Madison said got no luck from any of those. So yeah, we could keep beating that dead horse, but I think
Just need to find new ones.
Yeah, that might be the next approach. Yeah.
Okay. Item 4D is Governor's Bicycle Coordinating Council update. Be brief. We did just have our meeting a couple weeks ago. Just a few things to share out from that. So So DNR gives a very comprehensive update on everything they're doing around the state, but 2 items that would be of interest to Fitchburg. One, they have money that was approved in this last budget to replace a number of bridges on the Badger State Trail, which I think will potentially impact a couple of them in Fitchburg. In part, they're trying to replace their older wooden bridges, I believe with concrete bridges, because they've just found they hold up a lot better and you don't have to worry about loose boards and things flying up. And the other update they had on Badger State Trail is that they will be starting construction on Stewart Tunnel in 2026 and hopefully have that reopened in early 2027. So hopefully the 2026 pick-me-up at the border will be the last time that we have to take Tunnel Road to go around the closed Stewart Tunnel. Then a few other items from that. So we do have legislative members on that board or on that council. There's a request from the legislative members, and the Bike Fed has also agreed to be a part of this discussion on revisiting the e-bike issue, specifically not so much e-bikes as e-motos and things that are being branded as e-bikes that are not actually e-bikes. They don't meet the speed or power requirements. They're essentially just electric motorcycles that have pedals attached, in some cases for show. So I think it's part of a larger statewide discussion, but I know we've had discussions here about e-bikes, and just to say, I think there will be larger statewide discussions about how do we better define what an e-bike is to make it clear that it's an actual bicycle that is assisted with electricity, not a motorcycle. And then the last item from Gov's Bike Council is Wisconsin Department of Transportation does a bike and ped safety study through UW-Milwaukee. I believe they're getting the final report back from UW-Milwaukee this month. And so at our next meeting of the Gov's Bike Council in December, we should have an update on that. And then potentially, I had talked to the author of the study. He said he would be interested in coming to speak to this group as well about it if we had any kind of Fitchburg specific questions. More that he grew up in Verona and his mom's from Fitchburg, so he has kind of a tie to the community and said he's always willing to help Fitchburg out.
Good.
But that's all I had on Gov's Bike Council. If there's any questions.
No, I mean, I know that we touched on it in our there were questions about it in our presentation at committee of whole, so I'm glad that's underway.
This is Jim with a quick question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. So when we're talking about e-bikes and defining exactly what e-bikes are, is there any room to put something in there, kind of some sort of, e-bikes need to be equipped with some sort of, just horn or some notification system? I'm just thinking about e-bikes coexisting with pedestrians on multi-use paths, and just be really great to have some sort of requirement to say, hey, the e-bike needs to have some sort of way to, someone's coming up behind a pedestrian, let them know that, some sort of noise or some sort of alert system, whatever. Any room to put something like that in the requirements?
I mean, it's something we could certainly discuss. I mean, already if you're passing, you're supposed to give audible notification. I believe it's in the current statute, but yeah, as far as e-bikes specifically, I don't know. Steve, you had a question?
You got it.
Okay.
It's in the statute.
So yeah, it is a current requirement, but one that's not really observed. So in some ways, it's probably more.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah.
I'm curious, just with respect to that. I know that some other conversations have come up about e-bike behavior use regulations on multi-use trails. If you're talking about the classes of e-bikes that are, you're limited to 25, 30 miles an hour, there are also plenty of manually pedaled. Sorry, 28. Plenty of cyclists who are riding manual bikes who can achieve that speed as well. And I'm curious if there's a difference in terms of perceived risk or need to have that alert from an e-bike versus just any cyclist who's approaching and having that be a behavioral thing. I don't have a thought. I'm just kind of curious about that.
Yeah. Again, I think that's something that discussing, I mean, the main difference I've heard is just the weight of it.
Sure.
I mean, we've got,
And perhaps the skill level of an e-bike rider who's going 25 versus a normal bike rider who's going 25.
Yep.
I was just going to point out that nationally, the advocacy groups tend to recommend that bikes be regulated for safety without respect to power source. Because the very thing you point out is that you don't have to have an electric motor to go fast. And so we're recommending speed limits in busy places, for example, like along Monona Terrace on the Cap City Trail, instead of trying to regulate e-bikes specifically. Getting e-motos to require driver's licenses, to be registered, and to be on the roads instead of the paths, that is a totally separate thing, and there we really need to take the technology into account, the higher speeds.
I agree. I mean, some of the e-motos can do 45, 50 miles per hour. They weigh 90 pounds. Like that's a motorcycle at that point. But they're being marketed as e-bikes, and people ride them as if they are e-bikes. No other questions?
Kelly.
Oh, Kelly?
I just would like to agree that we should set a policy for users of the path rather than a specific type of path user. Because not only are we talking about bikes, but people on the e-scooters or those mono-wheel things. Anybody using some sort of any device on the trail should know the common courtesy and have the law apply evenly to everyone using the path.
Andy, this question is more directed at you, just because your involvement. From your opinion, does it make sense to kind of wait on how state policy may evolve, or would it be prudent for us as a city to consider ordinances?
And personally, given the speed that the legislature moves, I would recommend that the city, at the very least, look at the current framework that the state has. I mean, our ordinances don't even recognize e-bikes as existing because our ordinances are from the 1990s when they just didn't. There was no legal structure to define like class 1, 2, and 3.
If that's the case, then I'd recommend, based on Kelly's comments, that we potentially look into having a meeting structured around, like, maybe a meeting topic honing in on this so that we can understand it, learn it better, and if we would want to create an ordinance or a set of ordinances, we can do that.
And then, because I know because the governor's bike council was involved in part of the drafting of the original state statute, and I'll try to see if I can dig through my notes to find, because we had like industry representatives as part of that who could actually like really explain the technical pieces of like, and I think at the time like Trek actually brought different classes of e-bikes that like the council could ride and like see here's the difference between a class 1 and a class 2 and a class 3. And I think the other piece too is just recognizing that a number of the trails that run through Fitchburg aren't under our jurisdiction, that they're state trails and the state has their own policies and to Kelly's point about the one wheels, like technically those aren't allowed on a state trail. DNR considers those a play vehicle that's just not allowed on the trail, but they also don't enforce it. So because whatever we do, kind of, we can either try to match what the state's doing or not, but just be aware that that's a conscious decision of, do we want to have a different set of standards for Fitchburg versus trails that aren't under our jurisdiction?
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe another thing to consider is like if trails, if we have state trails under our jurisdiction and there's some sort of policy in place that maybe people may not be following signage. It could be a request to those agencies for signage, for more signage, better signage.
Steve, you had
Yeah, I was going to say that the e-moto issue and also the other micro-mobility aids is really a statewide problem. And I recognize Andy's concern about not getting any legislation passed, but it would be good if we could participate in that, but not try to go out on our own, because it will be it's a statewide problem that we should be hoping to have the best minds involved statewide. So contrast that with biking on sidewalks, which is something that you need to work on, which is a very specific Fitchburg problem.
Okay, no further questions or comments on that. Item 4E is the Committee of the Whole presentation review. Steve, you had registered for that as well. Otherwise, I can just say that we had our presentation to the Committee of the Whole a week ago now. So it was a presentation of, I think Joe and I have covered the Bike and Ped Commission piece. Steve was there to cover Bike Fitchburg, and then MSA was there, and Phil to talk about the Bike and Ped plan. I think we had a lot of good discussion about just kind of biking in general. There were some questions about like the economic impact of biking, questions about equity. Feel free to jump in on anything I'm missing here.
E-bikes.
E-bikes came up as well. And then I think there's some kind of programmatic questions as well. Questions about just counting and how are we counting the number of bikes and peds in the city, and like different technology options came up as a question as well. Feel free to, anyone else who was there to jump in.
No, I think you covered it, and also we talked about some of it with Sean. So.
I guess otherwise we can move on to item 4F, city website GIS mapping tools. So I asked for this topic in part. This came up at our last CETA meeting when Mike and Joyce were just like, hey, is anyone aware of all these really interesting maps that live out on the city's website that are kind of buried unless you know where to look? And so I asked Phil if he could just kind of give us a quick like 5-minute run through of like all the resources that live out on the city's website.
Yep, yeah, for sure. If there's anything else that you think I'm missing, for sure, let me know. There is kind of a lot to dig through, so I pulled up a few examples here. If you just go to the city's main website, might not spend a lot of time really digging down deep here, but if you go to the bottom of the page under popular resources, the second link there says GIS maps. So if you click through to that, you get to this page here, City of Fitchburg's open data portal. It gives you some high-level stats for the City of Fitchburg, but then if you scroll down, a number of web application GIS maps, a couple of story maps, and then some downloadable PDFs as well. A lot of this stuff has been around for a while, but it's also been certainly enhanced and cleaned up and beautified by having Dakota Dorn on staff as our full-time GIS specialist. So there's a lot of really cool work he's put into here that if you have never dug through here, it is well worth your time. I think it can answer a lot of questions and just provide some really interesting information and context for things going on in Fitchburg. I've got a few pulled up here as different tabs already. So one here is the parks and open space amenities. This one, it's a little bit more just kind of an informative map. There's not a lot of manipulation you can do here, but it highlights all the different parks and open spaces that we have here in Fitchburg, and you can filter by different categories. Like if you wanted to find all of the, you can click through any one of these categories on the right side. I'm going to bike trail, and then if I hit apply, it shows all of the parks that we have in Fitchburg that are categorized as having bike trail. So those are highlighted now instead of everything is kind of at a base level marked in green. anything with that category of bike trail now has the blue highlighting. So you can do that for a number of different categories here. It shows you on the right side which of those parks have those bike trails. So this is there's not a ton here. It's kind of just informative, but kind of a fun map to dig through. A little bit more useful perhaps is going into this one. This is sort of the most robust publicly facing GIS mapping that we've got here for Fitchburg. So you start out, you see just the whole city highlighted. You can search by address. You can filter a number of different categories up here. The first thing I'm actually going to do, because right now we're just sort of showing the street layer, is you can change your base map here, and you can look at the OpenStreetMap, which is a really common one for bike interests. There's satellite imagery. The most recent that we have is 2024 imagery, so that gives you a little bit clearer view of the actual aerial view of what's going on. If we click on OpenStreetMap, then you just get a little bit different coloration, and if you zoom in enough, I spend most of my time with the imagery. I haven't used the OpenStreetMap base layer, so it doesn't look like this has all the same features highlighted as if you went to the OpenStreetMap website that I know we've gotten presentations from Steve on before, and we've used that for some different purposes. But just kind of some useful base maps here. But then if you head over to these categories in the upper right, each one of these buttons represents kind of a different category area for elements, layers, shape files that we have here in the mapping. So there's I wonder if we can move, I'm seeing on the screen the gallery of members in the meeting, and that's blocking the legend. I don't know if it's possible to get that gallery moved, because that's not showing up on my screen. Hey, Jeremy, is it possible to move this gallery of Zoom attendees? Because it's hiding our sidebar here. That's not showing up on my Zoom window. Sorry. Oh, of course, it's the main meeting computer. Thank you. Yeah, just the singles. That's great too. Fantastic. Thanks so much. Hey, now you can see some of these things I'm talking about. So there's a legend over here that you can refer back to as things, but there's elevation profiles. I'm going to stop clicking on everything. Add data. The most useful ones here, Public Works, Planning and Zoning, and Parks and Forestry. So if we click on the Parks and Forestry tool, you can see a bunch of different checkboxes here, so you can activate mountain bike trails. Then we're actually going to zoom out a little bit again. And unsurprisingly, this is now going to highlight the mountain bike trails that are within Fitchburg's boundaries. So we see over here in the Cap City Trail, and we see Quarry Ridge. Just a really, really useful way to visualize a number of different features and amenities and infrastructure in Fitchburg. If you click on bike facilities here, this is a really quick, high-level overview. And if we, trying to think if we need to drop it down to see what the... Yeah, I want to drop it down to see, and I'm trying to remember if... Oh, here we go. Yep, so if you click that kind of sandwich menu, now we see everything in green as a bike path. If it's kind of gold there, it's a bike lane. So this shows you what the network looks like. It's a really great way to quickly visualize where we may have some gaps in the network. If you were thinking about doing some route planning, there's a lot of different maps that are useful for route planning, but this could be another resource as well. So this is just a really... Sorry, Kelly?
Could you show me those facilities again?
Sure.
Could you do the drop down? Could we get parking, bike parking? Because a lot of times people want to go somewhere and they want to know, hey, can I stop for a bit and like take a walk off the trail? And so knowing if there's a safe place to lock your bike, lots more possibilities for you.
I can definitely ask that of Dakota. We don't currently. I know that Steve, on behalf of Bike Fitchburg, has done a lot of bike parking inventories. The last time I think you shared that with me was at the last bike-friendly community application. So it's not, the bike parking inventory is not something that the city maintains right now. So that would be the difficulty, is just the base data, whether we are maintaining that at the city. Because otherwise, if we put it in here in the map, it's going to be kind of a snapshot from one point in time, and
the question is how frequently are we collecting new data and updating it in here? But I can definitely talk to Dakota about that and see if it's something that he has looked into.
I suspect the city would probably at least have the data for bike parking on city facilities, but maybe.
We would at least have that, yep.
That might be.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, except for city buildings like this one and parks, almost all of the bike parking in Fitchburg is on private property. And generally, for example, trees, city doesn't inventory stuff on private property.
That might be, that in and of itself, the public bike racks might be worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely look into that and talk to Dakota about it. That's a good suggestion, thanks. That's probably the most useful in terms of bike amenities, but certainly you can see some things in here with public works. Looking at sidewalk is another layer here. Let's actually go back to parks and disappear the bike facilities for a moment. Get these sidewalks to show more clearly. So again, you can see where we've got sidewalks right now in Fitchburg. So just kind of a really good resource here to get a quick visualization that I know I'm familiar with it because I work for the city, so I kind of take it for granted, but it is entirely possible that nobody on this call has ever actually gone through and looked at this. And I should say, because I just tabbed over here, to access this one, this would be, if you're on this open data page for the city, this one is the Fitchburg GIS viewer. So that first map at the top left, Fitchburg GIS viewer is what we're looking at right here. Definitely encourage you, if you're at all interested, to take some time and dig through here and just explore all the different data that we've got. There are also two other, sorry, things are moving quickly on my screen and not so much where I'm sharing, so I'm trying to look back and forth between the two. So this one here, if you go to Capital Projects Dashboard, that's the one right below Fitchburg GIS Viewer. That gives us right now, oh, sorry. That may be this one. We got two different tabs I have up here. One is showing active projects that are currently underway. Again, you can filter this by bike, city facilities, parks, and so on, and it gives you updates on what the project is, if it's in planning stage, if it's in design construction. Tabs down here at the bottom for active and completed projects. And then the one that was just on capital project, so proposed items in the CIP, which again, a whole list of them going down the left-hand side, or if you go to the sandwich menus in the upper right, you can select by project type or what phase the project is in. I don't want to spend too long. You could really dig through here for a while. If y'all have questions about anything in particular or want to see something specific, let me know. But these ones I won't do a lot of digging through because we are at 20 minutes until the end of the meeting.
Question?
Yeah.
Is that 2024 imagery 6-inch resolution?
Ooh, that's a good question. 2024 imagery.
It used to be that you could.
2 foot was the last. 2 foot might have been the 2020. I'm not sure if it's as detailed as 6-inch. It is pretty detailed. Very detailed.
It used to be that you could. I always went to what's it called? The Dane County one, and they recently blocked it so that you cannot zoom in on the imagery anymore. Mm-hmm. And so then I had to switch to this map, mm-hmm. which had much better imagery, both higher resolution, and they would allow you to see it.
And I believe there are still parcels that you can't zoom in with high resolution just for security concerns, but yeah, for the most part, you can't zoom in on the
like
prison.
The correctional institutes.
The correctional institutes, I think even possibly some elements of the electrical grid, like some transformer stations, might not have the same resolution if you zoom in. But yeah, I don't know that this is 6-inch resolution, but yeah, it's pretty detailed.
Those blocks on the continental crosswalk markings are 24 inches wide. So you can see that it is getting down. You can almost see the bumps on the detectable warning.
Just about. But yeah, that is also really nice, just getting that bird's eye view. I use that pretty frequently when I'm doing research on various things from the city and don't have to go drive and look at it. Yeah, updated in 2024, so there will be some recent projects that are still not reflected here, and I think we update this base map every 2 years is the frequency we've been on.
Lydane.
It's a really cool feature.
Going back to the base map, OpenStreetMap is a bunch of geographical data, and then it's rendered in several different ways. And the one you're showing is the default, the A map. The one that I usually use is the C map, which is the bike and ped map. D is a transit map. So it might be interesting to ask Dakota if he would put up another option for base map, which would be the OpenStreetMap bike and ped map instead of the OpenStreetMap default view. And then you would see the bike parking, Kelly.
This one may not load. I have had, because
That'd be awesome, thanks.
I think OpenStreetMap is hosted in Europe, and so I've had some difficulties when I'm on the city's network, just given some security things with IT here. I've had some difficulty getting it to fully render.
Yeah, so you can see.
So Cycle OSM will pop up, but not the cycle map, it looks like. But yeah, OpenStreetMap.org is another great non-city hosted, but another great resource that I have better luck when I'm at home getting this to pop up.
I was going to ask if curb ramps are on our GIS. That they have them.
I don't. Yes.
MPO has them.
I think they are. It's the top option here for Public Works, as we've just got point features here for curb ramps.
Cool.
So yeah. Anything else you were thinking of seeing here, Andy?
Nope, I think that covered it.
Great. Yeah, so spend some time there on the opendata.fitchburgwi.gov. It's a great set of resources.
Thank you. There's no further questions. We move on to 5A, or 5, report from Department. 5A is the council update. Turn it over to Joe.
So just an update on our CIP. If you recall, Alder Lattice and myself put in a amendment to increase the funding for the Quarry Ridge recreational area. So there was 170 that was allocated, and we added an additional 40,000 through park dedication fees, and then we asked for an additional 80,000 to be revised, and that was passed unanimously by the council. So thank you for your support by commission, and obviously this is really important. Also, thank you, Steve, for advocating for it.
And the 80 was specifically for the skills piece of it. So it was what, 4 lines of kind of varying, increasing levels of difficulty for people who are learning how to mountain bike to be able to go out and work their way up progressively through the different series. And then there was actually shared with Phil. There was a brief blurb about it in the Corp newsletter. So if anyone, I can forward that on if anyone wants to see like the actual rendering of what it would look like.
Other than that, I don't have any updates.
All right. Any questions for Joe?
Oh, just reminder, I know that Bill Alderjester has brought it up, but it's a week without driving. So just encourage folks as little as possible to drive, or at least try to reduce your driving in different types of ways. I've taken the bus a couple times this week and biked here, so yeah, it's
Joe, there's yeah. Can I follow up on that week without driving commentary? this Thursday, there is a discussion about life as a non-driver. Jim, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, it's tomorrow night. I believe it's from 6:30 until 8. It's based on a book, but you don't really have to necessarily read the book. I think I sent information about it to the list, to many of you via the list. And it's 6:30 to 8, and at the blanking the name of the apartment complex right now, but it's apartment complex on
Terrace Point.
Thank you, thank you.
And then one more thing, Joe, when you were mentioning the Quarry Ridge improvements, one more thing that was added to the CIP was Bill's amendment for parking at Quarry Ridge for bikes, not just cars.
That's right, yeah. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Joe. Move on to item 5B, the staff update.
All right, really quickly, I'll just pop this up because I found it online. I can send this link out to the commission as well as information on that community discussion tomorrow. And I would imagine Steve may also have an update on that with the Bike Fitchburg update, so I won't say anything else. I did have my regular sustainability update discussion with Jeremy yesterday for FACTv. Talked a little bit about the week without driving. I hope I represented it well. Other two big updates. I know I mentioned last month that the B-Cycle network through the TAP grant is fully completed, fully expanded. I can now report that we have finished our financial obligations, so I've processed the final payments and reimbursement requests to the state DOT. So for all intents and purposes, the TAP grant funded B-Cycle expansion in Fitchburg is done now, and we get to completely focus on the just outreach and collecting data and looking at whether further expansion is warranted. But that'll be led now by B-Cycle, trying to recruit additional station sponsors through their own channels.
Question on that: were there any recommended sites that we just had not built on that we would want to?
There were locations, and I don't necessarily want to. There were locations that we thought would be advantageous just because of their general situation around the city, close to businesses, trails, residential areas. You know, the best sites that we see in Madison and that we've seen in Fitchburg so far are multi-use. So the sites that get the most use in Fitchburg's system are the Oak Bank Plaza, where you're close to residential and parkland and bike trails and some retail there, as well as the Wyndham site right at the corner of Fish Hatch and McKee. Again, there's multi-use there. There's a lot of traffic nearby. It's a multi-transit hub. So there were a couple other spots in Fitchburg that we really wanted to get that it was private property, and we just couldn't quite get on the same page as the owners there for various reasons. You know, concerns about giving up parking or not feeling that it was something that they saw the benefit in. So there are definitely still spots that were high on our list that didn't work out, and we'd be happy to keep discussing with those owners if they were interested at some point. But in terms of city-owned property, we got everything that we were hoping to. So what we had control over, I'd say we accomplished our goals.
I recommended to the mayor that we not have any more TIF projects without B-Cycle stations, because on the scale of projects that are generally funded by TIF, like the Route 14 interchange and underbuilding parking and things like that, a B-Cycle station would be like 1%, and it's a great public good, and she thought that was a valuable suggestion. She would take it to planning. I really think that, you know, when some of these TIF districts are reopened, whenever the project plan is touched, we should be advocating for B-Cycle stations, because again, I regard B-Cycle as a form of transit, and
we definitely need one, for example, where the BRT will end at Trevorton Pike is a good example of where we need them. But then,
And then, go ahead, Kelly.
Steve, can I have a follow-up on that? Could just plain old bike parking also be a suggestion in those places? Could the TIF district also have, like, at the end of BRT, regular old bike parking? Seems like it also would be a good idea. Because if folks didn't get a B-cycle pass, or they want to use it all year when the B-cycle is down, being able to bike to the bus and then go to work and come home would be something I would be interested in doing.
I think the initiative there, Kelly, would be to expand our bike parking requirements from only smart code districts to all new development. That it doesn't necessarily need TIF. Again, 2 stalls of bike parking is about $200, and plus a place to put it, typically concrete.
Yeah.
So what we really want is all new development to have APBP recommended bike parking. And right now that's done by jawboning developers when they come before the Plan Commission. And it's not a requirement. And you know, the last 2 examples of buildings going into daycare and up at the Lafayette, they put in wave racks. And wave racks look like they park a lot of people, but to lock up a bike to them, you have to put your bike sideways, and so no matter how many loops there are, you can only park 2 bikes.
Yes, I have experienced that.
This might be a good topic for a future agenda discussion, perhaps.
Going to say the same thing.
Yeah. I think this could it deserves more than the time we can allow it for right now. I think we should talk about it in the future for sure.
Yeah, I would recommend we have like an overall discussion about like some either ordinances or plans for new development requirements.
Steve, you and I have been talking about this for years.
Since we were both on council.
The last update was we got a little bit of a preview of it earlier, but it was just going to be a comments on the bike and pedestrian plan. So the hope was to have that, and I think everyone is aware of this, perhaps not. I know I mentioned it at the committee of the whole presentation last week. The hope was to have all the final revisions done last week. We'd get or I guess 2 weeks ago, we're going to have the bike and pedestrian plan referred out by council last week, and it would have been considered and discussed and voted on today. There was a request to have 2 additional committees beyond bike and pedestrian consider it. One of those doesn't have any future meetings scheduled, so I couldn't put a referral sheet together yet until we've got a meeting to enter in there. So I'm not sure right now the timing of the bike and pedestrian plan. I know we had initially hopes to have it approved this summer. Right now we're just kind of in a holding pattern waiting on that, but I'm working on I know Steve provided a lot of photos, and a couple others did as well. Andy and Joe, you both did. So adding some final photos and the like before we are ready to move forward on it. But that's all the updates I've got.
I guess one comment on the referral.
Yeah.
I get wanting to send it to the equity commission, but if they're not meeting, I don't think we should be holding this process. I get where the request came from, but so just a comment.
Yep, understood.
Okay, if there are no further questions for Phil or any updates, move on to 5C, like Fitchburg update. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you, Andy. We recently had our pick-me-up at the border ride. 48 registered, 40 started. Some people signed up without any intention of riding, just to donate to our mission. We raised about $1,400 for our mission. I know of at least 3 people that made it all the way to the border and back. It was wonderful weather. into the future, at 10 o'clock will be the Ride for Joe, the last one of the season. These are our rides out of this, daytime rides out of the senior center. While it's oriented toward seniors, all are welcome. On the October 8th is Bike the Bird Wrap Party, as was mentioned. We will be honoring the top riders from our May through September challenge, but also we'll be honoring our 31 bicycle-friendly businesses and providing award plaques to the 4 newest bicycle-friendly businesses. Public's invited. It will be at the Agora Pavilion. Cycling Without Age is operational with a Trishaw on loan from the Wisconsin Bike Fed. We will have it through the 13th, and we are trying to make one last visit to Renaissance Senior Living up in Hilldale. But we have gotten an agreement with the Bike Fed to borrow that Trishaw again for 2026. So we're looking forward to training pilots and scheduling events where we could take it to senior living places, schools, even individual residences. We have raised now over $5,000 out of the first $25,000 we want for a Trishaw and a trailer that will hold 2. Since we have the Trishaw on loan, we may buy the trailer first. So that is working. For those in the public who may not know, Cycling Without Age is an intergenerational community building program where trained pilots drive an electric tricycle with a front bench seat to give a biking-like experience to people who can't bike on their own through neighborhood streets, state trails, and so on. I mentioned we have 4 new bike-friendly businesses. We are working on about 4 to 6 additional applications for the October 30th deadline. That will be the last deadline for the year. There are 3 per year. Those will be awarded in February. We'll be working on our strategic plan update. We've ratified a mission statement and a vision, and we have a draft program list, and this helps us structure our volunteerism and our meetings so that we're on task instead of chasing multiple opportunities that we can't really follow through on. The Kyle Steger Greenway project to build a bicycle wayside on the Capital City Trail between the Capital City Cannonball Connector and the Longford Terrace Underpass is proceeding. The city staff has approved the final construction plans, and now they are at Madison Metropolitan Sewer District for approval, which has 2 lines through there. The area has been sprayed, and as soon as we get the MAD sewer approvals, we will be able to enter into an agreement with Fitchburg and the Friends of the Kyle Steger Greenway, and then that will allow us to do a burn of the area that will be restored as prairie, and to do the tree removals. There's some box elders and a dead tree that need to be removed to help open up sunlight for the prairie. One of our bicycle-friendly business applicants, Altera Homes, has donated money, and we used it to buy some more of the bilingual path etiquette signs that you see on the Fish Hatchery Greenway between, there's one just north of High Ridge Trail and one just south of Greenway Cross. So they will be, we'll work it out with Public Works or Parks to get those installed in the Terra Vista subdivision where Altera is. And another project we're going to be heading back to this winter is asking the council to designate our multi-use, the longer segments of our multi-use path system is the Fitchburg Greenway system, to start to market it and publicize it and eventually get wayfinding signage up on it so that it's conceived of as a system instead of, you know, many people know that there's a Fitchburg multi-use path near their house, but they have no idea where they go, how many places you can get on our path system without having to walk or bike on the roads. So that's what I thought to share with you. Do you have any questions about Bike Fitchburg or any of our projects or programs? Thank you very much for listening in.
Okay, last, item number 6 is announcements. Our next meeting is December 3rd. A couple announcements I was going to make, although Steve already covered the Bike the Berg wrap-up, so I don't need to cover that again. And then one other just quick announcement. Last week I met with Bill Jetzer and Ryan Hutter from RCC, and then Logan Raikstead from, he's on Transportation Transit, as well as the, I forget, the Historic Preservation. Landmarks Preservation. We just had a discussion about kind of continuing bike and ped events specifically. And so we're trying to kind of building off the walk that Joe and Ryan put together around Dunn's Marsh to try to do similar events in the future. So our hope is to do kind of quarterly events, potentially getting speakers, maybe through like the Badger Talks Speakers Bureau on campus. But be in contact as we kind of move forward with that. We've got like our little 4-person working group to try to get some events going or hopefully we'll still get one pulled off yet in 2025, but then kind of really looking at kind of a quarterly basis in 2026, and the idea of like doing kind of like one themed per season.
I think one thing that was helpful in the walk was utilizing the neighborhood association. So it would be good if, you know, like say we walk in Southdale, like work with Man and Badger Rock. If we're at, you know, another place, work with some community organizations. So
I think that's our goal, and then I think too we're trying to balance it between biking and walking. So I don't know, it's gonna be hard and fast, like it's gonna be 2 bike events and 2 pedestrian events, but generally that's what we're looking at doing. Especially if we're doing a winter event, that walking probably just makes a lot more sense. Unless there are any other announcements, move on to item number 7, which is adjournment.
Move to adjourn. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. See you in December.